A strategy doesn't start from winning aspirations or from a mission, vision, value of where did the mission, vision, values came from. The only logical way has been highlighted 2 years ago by Richard Rumelt, and I advise you to read the crux. It's the book that he has published, where he very clearly, explicitly identifies that the starting point of any strategy should be the difficult and hard to solve problems that lay ahead of us. Typically, we associate them with opportunities and threats that we cannot deal with if we don't change anything. So we need to change something, especially in regards to the product market fit, the two dimensions of the strategy. And if we identify those narrowly problems, as Rumelt calls them, which can be also identified as our paramount challenges, our most important challenges in the future. And the strategy is needed only if we believe that we have such challenges, because if we believe that all the most important opportunities and threats that lay ahead are something that we can deal with what we currently have, with our current product portfolio and the ways that we're positioned in the market, then we don't need any strategy at all. We just continue doing and implementing the strategies that we already have, and sharpening the saw and doing continuous improvement and all this like this without any new strategy. But if we identify some paramount challenges, then we need a strategy, because the strategy it's it's actually prescriptive on the changes that we should do, primarily on our positioning along the product market fit dimensions of the strategy. And in order to be able to change this position in a way that would allow us to deal with those opportunities and threats that we are expecting to encounter in the future, then we need to make some choices. And there are choices about doing some things and not others. These are the strategic choices. And these strategic choices are positioning us not for a product, but and not for a year. It's actually for several years, until the next inflection points that will be encountered in our industry. And any industry, there are inflection points which are representing some dramatic changes in the ways business is done. Sometimes it's due to technology, sometimes it's due to customer behavior, sometimes it's due to predominant new predominant business model. Sometimes it's a combination of all of them, and that it's actually actually something that we should make some clear decisions on. Now, paramount challenges go to any opportunities and threats in the future that you see for your company, and ask the question: can we deal with that opportunity and threat without changing anything? And if the answer is no, it's actually we don't believe that we will be able to deal with this opportunity or with this threat, so harvest that opportunity or defend against that threat, that becomes a challenge. Now, we can't just focus our strategy on a dozen or 2 dozen challenges. That's too much. Normally we should have 1, 2, 3, 4 paramount challenges. So we need to aggregate them, to group them into the most important areas of challenge for us. And that represents the foundation for actually developing a strategy. So by using this explanation that I've given, you can give yourself any number of examples you like. Look at your company. Look in the future on any criteria. Take, for instance, the 11 criteria extracted from Pestel and Porter 5 Forces, and look across, for instance, technology. Will you have any opportunities based on the evolution of the technology specific for your industry? Will you have any threats based on the anticipated evolution of technology in your industry, in the ways that it will affect your industry? Then look at those opportunities and threats. Are you going to be able to deal with them, to benefit, to harvest from the opportunity, to defend against the threats without changing anything with what you have currently, the way that you do business today? And if you find any of those opportunities and threats on any of these criteria where the answer is no, It means we can't deal with that when the time comes when we're going to be confronted with the moment of dealing with that opportunity and threat. We won't be able to do that. Then we need to have a strategy to prepare us for that. That's a fundamental reason, not the mission, vision, values, not the SWOT analysis, not the winning aspirations. These are stupid places where to start a strategy from. You're going to get your strategy into the wall if you don't focus your strategy on the paramount challenges that you're going to encounter during the future couple of years of your company. Until you will get to the inflection point in your industry. Business strategy and strategy. Now, when I say strategy, also read business strategy, which means I'm not talking about corporate strategy. Corporate strategy for organizations with multiple business lines, where each business line has their own business strategy. That's corporate strategy. It deals with another thing. It deals with branding, with merger and acquisitions, with shareholder relationships, with group financing, with investments, with a variety of other things. But I'm talking about the business strategy. You have a business line, and you need to have a strategy to deal with the specific challenges that lay ahead. Because if you have multiple business lines, each of them doing, for instance, operating in various industries, each of them will have their own specific paramount challenges, and therefore their own specific strategy inside the corporate strategy. But don't regard corporate strategy as some sort of envelope for business strategy of each individual business line. Regard them as an enabler strategy for each business line. And then when I'm talking about strategy, I'm talking about business strategy or competitive strategy. It depends how you want to call it. So the business as a strategy that allows us it's a solution for a problem. And the solution, it's actually something that we need to change in a different way, to position us in a different way based on specific strategic choices that we can translate into the value propositions and into the that we can place into the marketplace as products and services, and then look at capabilities required and look at the gaps, and then execute the strategy by implementing our strategy execution and strategy implementation are basically the same thing. And during all that process of strategy execution, we're actually closing the gaps in capabilities. And as soon as all the capabilities are available for one value proposition that we've defined, then we're ready to launch. As part of operation, we're ready to launch new products and services to be able to deal with the paramount challenges that we have started from. Okay, so isn't reaching a company a paramount challenge? No, because tell me where the vision and mission came from. How did it teleport into your brain so you know what the vision and mission is before you even formulated the strategy? That's impossible. That's a chimera. Don't go there. It has been here for decades and decades, starting from mission, vision, value, start a strategy. That is today. It looks stupid. You can actually create a vision and is a mission and as a values in summarizing your strategy after you have formulated it. So you have formulated the strategy, you've gone through all this process that you see on screen: paramount, challenging, strategic choices, value proposition, required capabilities. So you formulated the strategies that actually allows you to surmount the paramount challenges. And then if you want to communicate it, and you must communicate it, then vision summarizes the strategy and it allows you to communicate better, and the mission and values as well. So it's a byproduct of the strategy formulation process that allows you to communicate strategy with. Don't even think about starting strategy from mission, vision, values. That it's a bad practice. We know so much better today than doing that. Okay, so SWOT helps in knowing opportunity and threats. Now, it's the opportunities and threats part of the SWOT which is important for us. It's important to understand the future through opportunities and threats, but then the strengths and weaknesses, it's actually something of the past. When you do the analysis of the strengths and weaknesses, you're talking about where you are today. How do you know that your current strengths and weaknesses will allow you to deal with the opportunities and threats of the future? It's impossible, because the future is not an extrapolation, a linear continuation of the past. It comes with a variety of new things, of opportunities that you've never encountered before, with threats that you've never encountered before, and you can't really rely on dealing with that with what you've developed until today. With the current current strengths and weaknesses, which are the result of the strategies that brought you where you are today. But we are talking about the future, when you need to reassess what kind of capabilities will you need to have in order to be able to support the value propositions that actually translate your strategic choices into the reality of the market, and the strategic choices are your solution for dealing with the paramount challenges. That's how the logic of the strategy should work. At least this is the current place in 2025, when we have an understanding of how strategy should work based on all the elements that we have collected from all the the thought leaders who have actually put one brick, each of them, to the foundation of the strategy. So now we have better understanding. Strengths and weaknesses are something that are descriptive of where we are today. And we're talking about strategy. Strategy is prescriptive of what should we be doing in the future. Strengths and weaknesses in regards to the future are irrelevant. It's the only thing that counts if we have some capabilities required to do the changes that will allow us to deal with the opportunities and threats, or not. If we don't have the capabilities, we need to set them in place. That's what we need a strategy finally to be able to do that. And executing the strategy means actually to closing the gap between the required capabilities and the existing ones. So the strategy journey, what's the strategy journey? We're actually starting from a strategic analysis on the bottom. We're analyzing the current position and the current value propositions. We need to do that because the question is, given the opportunities and threats of the future, our current position and our value propositions of today allow us to deal with those opportunities and threats? In other words, if we don't change anything, will we be able to deal with them? And if the answer is no, in some cases, it will be yes, but in some cases, it will be no. We won't be able to deal with them. We identify them or we group them into paramount challenges. Some of the paramount challenges are about the current way of doing business, and some others, probably more distant ones, are about how are we going to need to do business in the future beyond a next inflection point. And inflection point always exists. Just to take a very quick reference, the most popular one, think of 2007 for the mobile phone industry. So that was an inflection point. What happened after 2007, after the iPhone was launched, represented a significant change in the way people use the mobile phones, and also how the vendors of mobile phones had to build their business models, and technology adopted and everything. So every industry has inflection points from time to time, and you need to understand when the next inflection point will be. Typically, that's associated with some more dramatic opportunities and threats along the evolution of some of the driving forces that are going to influence our industry, or even to influence ourselves inside our industry. So it might be macroeconomic or microeconomic driving forces, and that's the inflection point. Okay, so we need to understand where the inflection point will be, and we need to understand that we need to prepare for that as well. So some paramount challenges are about exploiting the current competitive advantage, the current way of doing business, and others are about preparing ourselves for a significant different way of doing business. It's exploration. So exploitation and exploration, we will have paramount challenges of both types. And then we need to make some strategic choices for each of them. Strategic choices along the two dimensions of the strategy. And the two dimensions of the strategy are born from the product market fit. It's a concept about dealing with the jobs to be done and the needs in the market, and then with the solutions that are going to be able to address those needs or those problems that the customers have or will have. And those are the two dimensions, and we need to take some choices on both of them. You can call them any way you like. I don't like the winning side, the winning part, because, for instance, in the public sector, you don't have any winning. It's not a zero-sum game there. So in order to have a universal approach, you can better use, for instance, problems to solve and solutions to deliver. for the 2 dimensions of the strategy, for instance. Okay, so we need to make some choices there. We should have a cognitive reference model. It's used to be the delta model built by Arnoldo Hux. And it evolved to something that we're calling the penta model, which allows us to deal with multiple available choices on each of 2 dimensions, and we need to pick exactly only the ones which are allowing us to deal with the paramount challenges. When we have done that, we need to do something with the strategic choices. They're just concepts about how to approach a certain market that has some specific needs, on how to solve some problems in a specific way, and we need to bring them to something that can be launched in the market as products and services. And that step that we need to make after making the choices, which are the foundation of our strategy, are the value propositions. And the value propositions are, again, about something that we will launch sooner, once we have the capabilities required for them in place, and those are mostly with exploiting the current competitive advantage, and some others will be launched later because we don't even know everything about the technologies, the business models. So we'll need to go into the exploration mode, into the incubation mode, as Geoffrey Moore says in his Zones to Win, and we will have value propositions that will be ready at specific moments in time in the future to deal with the paramount challenges, which again will come not all at the same time. They will come, some will come sooner, some opportunities will be sooner, some later, some threats will be sooner, some later, and some of them will be associated with the inflection point that will dramatically change our industry. And we need to prepare the value propositions for them. Now, remember, value propositions are not products or services. They are the conceptual framework for our products and services. It's like we create an instance of the value proposition by several products and services which comply with the same concepts and success formula defined by the value proposition, but there are different products and services. And launching products and services is not the job of strategies. That is the job of operations. That is the job of marketing. Inside each marketing department, you will see that there is a product development or a service development unit which actually does exactly that. They launch products into the marketplace, new ones. Of course, they can dig deeper into the customer needs by using something like design thinking and experiment a little bit with the product and test them and build prototypes and so on. But they will need to comply with the value proposition. And guess why do they need to comply with the value proposition? Because by analyzing the value proposition, we identified some required capabilities, and we've looked at which capabilities were missing. And we focused our strategy on closing those gaps of missing capabilities, and we created the strategic plans every year along the strategic horizon, multi-annual strategic horizon, and created the capabilities, set in place the capabilities in order for us to be able to support all the essential and trade-off factors of the value proposition, and allow products to be launched based on that value proposition. So that's the way that we move forward through implementing strategy by closing gaps, setting up the necessary capabilities required by each of the value proposition sequentially, and then being able to launch as soon as the value proposition is fully supported with capabilities. Then we're able to use it to launch new products and services and be able to deal with the paramount challenges where we have started from. So that's the concept of the strategy, and implementing the strategy and executing the strategy. Okay, so I wanted to clarify this. So again, we start from our strategic analysis. We identify paramount challenges which require us to have a new strategy. If we have no paramount challenges, we don't need a new strategy. So once we identify these challenges, we select the strategic choices from the library of choices that are available to us and make that mix, which is very specific to each of the paramount challenges. And then we need to translate our strategic choices into something that we can launch in the market as products and services. And these are the value propositions. These are our success formulas, combining essential factors about customer benefits and essential factor about value capture, about profitability, some also associated with some trade-offs, because we can't offer everything to the customer. The Blue Ocean strategy canvas, it's something that relates to the customer benefits. So when we design a value proposition, we can take the strategy canvas from the Blue Ocean and think which are the competitive factors, those on the horizontal axis that we should compete for. And try, of course, to find a unique way of competing and bringing some benefits to the customer, which ideally are unique, and some of them have never been used before by competitors. So we might eventually create a Blue Ocean, but it's not mandatory. And as a matter of fact, 9 out of 10 Blue Ocean strategy launching attempts are failing. So at least we can create a highly competitive steel red ocean value proposition, but it's something that will allow us to satisfy some customers and get profit from that, and be able, in doing that, as we launch them as products and services, to be able to deal with some of the paramount challenges that we have started from. So now, this is the strategy. The 4 components that I've mentioned. The paramount challenges, strategic choices, the value proposition, and the systems, the required capabilities that support them. Those are the 4 fundamental elements of the strategy. Now, in order to implement the strategy, why can't we implement the strategy tomorrow morning? Why can't we launch all products and services for all the value proposition tomorrow morning? We can't, because we have some missing capabilities, or some capabilities are not adequately configured, even if they exist. And we need to define them as strategic gaps. And if we close those gaps as we execute the strategy with annual strategic plans and executing the strategic plans, then we'll be able to have in place the capabilities required to launch products and services based on any value proposition that has all the necessary capabilities in place. Others don't have that all the capabilities in place, so we're continuing to close those gaps until, again, for that other value proposition, all the capabilities are set in place. And based on that, from that moment on, we can start launching products and services to deal with the paramount challenges. And hopefully we're doing it at the right moment in time, when we're going to encounter the opportunities and threats that we identified as paramount challenges. So that's the logic of connecting this strategy with execution. Beyond all the philosophies and lip service that you can hear about bridging the gap between strategy and execution, we're talking about something technically very detailed. What we're talking about missing capabilities or misconfigured capabilities that are strategic gaps that we need to close by putting them, aggregating them into objectives for each annual execution cycle. And as we execute the strategic plan, to be able to set in place the capabilities required us to be able to launch the value proposition as products and services into the marketplace, and be able to surmount the paramount challenges where we have started from. That's a very pragmatic way of dealing with strategy and with strategy execution. We have formulated the strategy. We have created for each annual cycle a strategic plan that allows us to deal with the strategic gaps in form of strategic objectives, and then we're going to close those strategic gaps by achieving the strategic objectives based on the strategic initiatives that we associate with each strategic objective, typically associating the strategic initiative with each of the strategic gaps. So we have that now, a strategic plan at organizational level. Now, nothing happens at organizational level. It needs to go further down into the organization to be executed. I'm talking about the strategic plan. So the fact is like this: we have a multi-annual strategy. What do you align? Do you align it and create a strategy for marketing, a strategy for IT, a strategy for HR, a strategy for finance? No. those strategies do not make sense. Strategy is about how all the parts and components are working together in order to be able to accomplish something which is obviously the surmounting of the paramount challenges, and that's the way to approach this. And that's why the alignment, it's about the strategic plans. We create the strategic plan at company level, and then we take each strategic plan and say, okay, now who contributes to the achievement of the objectives, which in other words also means to closing the strategic gaps within each objective, and who doesn't in terms of function. So we will have a vertical alignment, and vertical alignment means going to the strategic objectives that we have in the strategy map of the organization, and asking ourselves which of those objectives can be something that we as a department can contribute to achieve them. Will we have people in our department, in our business unit, who are going to participate in the strategic initiatives that are related to those objectives? If yes, we can influence that the achievement of that objective. So therefore, we can actually bring that objective by this vertical alignment process into our strategy map at departmental level, in a business unit or in a department. And we do this exercise again and again until all the business units or departments are vertically aligned to the strategy. Now, there is something very important. In some cases, although the selection tells us that we don't really see a clear way of contributing to one of the company strategic objectives, and we just leave it out of our strategy map, then we have an internal customer. And inside every company, we have internal customers and internal suppliers. These are, for instance, we're sales, and we're internal customer for marketing, who's internal supplier for us because they need to fill the pipelines with leads, and then we transform the lead into sales. And that's a relationship. That's an example. There are many other cases. And if you look on the process map of any organization, you'll see all those swim lanes that are telling us that in various processes, various departments, various functions are in this relationship, an internal customer and an internal supplier. And that is what generates the need for horizontal alignment. That's an essential concept of the Kaplan-Norton execution premium process. And our entire execution cycle is actually based on the execution premium process, and they highlighted how important the horizontal alignment is, and it happens like this. Let me tell you the story. So we are one of the departments, and we believe that we can't contribute to a certain strategic objective at company level. And I said, okay, that's fine. We'll only select the others or several others objectives, not this one. But then we have one internal customer of ours who said, well, we have selected that objective that you haven't. But we can't achieve it alone. We believe that you have a role as well, and we can define the requirements for you to actually place an objective into your strategy map as our internal supplier for us as internal customer, because we believe that you need something to do that. It was not clear for you when you did the vertical alignment, but now at horizontal alignment, we can better specify what exactly do you need to do differently, what do you need to change in us for us to be able to achieve our objective, to close the strategic gaps that we have inside our objective. So that's the reason of the vertical and horizontal alignment. And let's dig a little bit further into this. Now, why do we do this? So we understand what do we align? We align the strategic plans. So if we're talking about aligning strategy, it's a shorthand for telling we're aligning the strategic plans, because that's what we're aligning. We're not aligning the strategy. Because I've told you what aligning the strategy means, is to have a strategy for HR and a strategy for marketing and a strategy for sales. It doesn't make sense. Strategy is always about the entire company, how all the departments and functions are working together with the changes that they will need to contribute to in order to be able to surmount the paramount challenges where this strategy came from. And that means that what we need to align, we need to align the strategic plans. Now, why do we need to do the alignment? Why all this problem? Because we need to arrive to the only place where strategy is executed, and that is executed at individual level. It's not executed at departmental level, it's not executed at company level, it's executed at individual level. And until we have an accountability for the employees of our company to be able to contribute to the directly by actually being involved in the strategic initiatives and in the changes produced in the outcomes resulting from that, in terms of achieving objectives, or closing strategic gaps, being able to launch new products. So they have the role of actually doing the strategy, of executing the strategic plan. And that's why we need to bring the strategy to individual level. So if you go into an organization, and do you have balanced scorecard? Yeah, we do. Do you have individual scorecards for a number of people in various departments? And say, well, we don't have that. Well, if you don't have that, your strategy will never be executed, or at least not be executed as expected. It will be some sort of middle ground of half execution or something like this, because you don't have individual accountability. That's extremely important. And let me tell you what actually David Norton
in this knowledge economy
said about this.
Strategy is executed from the bottom of the organization. It's the truck drivers at UPS, it's the call center operators, it's the consultants at IBM. These are the people who interface with the customer. And if they don't understand what the new strategy is, you have no chance of executing it.
Okay, so strategy needs to get to the individual level. So that's I won't enter into more details about there. Now let's talk a little bit about this vertical and horizontal alignment. So it works like this. You have this example with several departments, sales, marketing, customer support, and you have also some objectives, and that are aligned not to everybody. Because, for instance, when we did the vertical alignment and we looked at this increased sales to existing customers, marketing said, well, we can't find a way to contribute to that. We can't identify a way to contribute to that. So we won't pick that objective into our strategy map. Same with customer support. They said, well, we won't pick define contributions that we have on the increasing of sales to existing customers. But then sales had to pick this because they have a very strong contribution to achieving that objective at company level, and said, wait a minute, we can't achieve it on our own. We also need marketing to help us, because to achieve this objective, we'll need to change something. We need to create a new process, target a new market segment, and have something that would allow us to make sales to existing customers. Well, typically, we're talking about existing customers, we're not targeting different segments, but we might be targeting different let's say, customer needs, and have and occupy a larger share of the customer wallet, and have get into adjacents that will allow us to, from existing customers, to extract more value, and that would be a change that us as a sales department will need to achieve. And we say, wait a minute, we can't do that because we don't have the necessary leads for these new industries which are adjacent to us but target the same existing customers. We need marketing to do something about that. And they asked their internal supplier, which is marketing, to do something about their objective. I said, you need to get into these new industries that we would need to create as adjacents to be able to target with with a more complex value proposition our existing customers, and get leads about customer needs from there, and identify competitors in those new industries, and a variety of other things. So it can be very specific on marketing of what kind of objectives they need to adopt in their strategy map. And they can go to customer support and say, well, wait a minute, we can't achieve this objective in terms of changing the ways that we're going to deal with existing customers, unless customer support changes something in their way. Our customer support asking our existing customers about their needs in the other industries where we would like to enter into as adjacent business development for us. And they haven't. So therefore, please, customer support creates this objective in your strategy map and scorecard, dealing with collecting information about the new ways of doing business with our existing customers, and you need to do that in order to help us achieve this objective. So therefore, marketing and customer support get their objective, even if they haven't vertically aligned objective one from the company level. They get the objective from their internal customers, which in this case it's sales. So that's vertical and horizontal alignment. And you can again ask the question, why don't we vertically align the objective to marketing? I mean, why didn't they pick that objective when they did the vertical alignment? And there are at least two reasons. And one reason is that the ways that it can contribute to that objective, it's unclear. So if it's unclear, they haven't adopted it into their strategy map. And then it might be a very small contribution. I said, well, that's not very significant for us. So let's focus only on the objectives that we can have a significant contribution. So they haven't vertically aligned that objective. But then it comes sales when they align the objective. I said, wait a minute, we need you to also have an objective about it. You need to do some things differently as part of our new strategy, and customer support also. And even if you haven't vertically aligned, you need now to horizontally aligned. And the reason is that I can be very specific in horizontal alignment about what do you need to change, which was not clear to you when you looked at company level and didn't understood what do you need to change to be able to contribute to something. You're my internal supplier. I'm your internal customer. I can tell you exactly what, maybe it's a small change, but you still need to change something, and you need to have an objective for that in order to be able to help me achieve the objectives that I vertically aligned from the company level. So that's how the vertical and horizontal alignment works in practice. And it didn't result like this initially. We just thought some sort of the horizontal alignment. It's only HR and IT and any support function, finance, and they need to support the you need to be able to support those that are vertically aligning to the company level. Okay, so let's move next. So
we have a few minutes, huh?
I'm trying to finish as fast as I can.
Yeah, please.
I'm just mentioning it, and you have the slide pack, and you can look into more detail. So this is a diagram that shows us how do we do the vertical alignment. It's some of the objectives are the same for across the organization. Some are contributive. So as the examples that I've given. And then you have horizontal alignment metrics, which allows you to tell which are the internal suppliers and internal customers, and how do you do horizontal alignment. And you end up with a strategy map that is based on objectives, which some of them are vertically aligned, some of them are horizontally aligned to your internal customers. That's how you have a departmental strategy map. Okay, individual alignment. Strategy is executed based on a strategic plan. We need to execute the strategic plan by bringing it to the individual level. But those people which are members in the project teams for our strategic initiatives are only a small part of the people in our company. Are typically 10-15% of the company. Now look at your department. How many of them are participating in project teams on a daily basis? A few of them, not all of them, of course. And the reality is that strategy execution in two ways. The second way to execute the strategy is based on the large number of employees which are not participating in any way to executing or supporting the strategic initiatives. So how are we going to execute strategy with their support? And that is done by using strategy communication. We need to have a strategy communication plan that it defines who receives what information based on through which channel at what time interval and things like this. And once they understand the strategies, they will be able to do some micro changes within their things that they're doing on the daily basis that can be convergent with the strategy. So we have a two-way of executing the strategy. And then we have the KPIs and the strategic initiatives. I think that this diagram that you will find in the slide pack, it's self-explanatory. It talks about how do you combine the lead KPIs related to the strategic initiatives and the lag KPIs related to the strategic gaps and to the final success of being able to launch products and services in the marketplace. And that's why we have at any moment in time, a strategic objective calculated in terms of status based on initially only on lead KPIs, then on combination of lead and leg KPIs, because also we start to collect some output, and finally only on leg KPIs, of course, considering hopefully the output related to the success or failure of launching a product in the marketplace, whereas it's where we are confronting the paramount challenges that we have started from. And then this is the about execution, because the presentation was about execution. I think that you can understand this yourself very well by just looking at it. It means, how do we do the strategy review meetings? We do them typically on a monthly basis, and we do them first at departmental level. People there need to reach some conclusion about corrective actions and changes that they need to do, adaptation of the strategy, potential candidates, and then they are bubbling up to the company level in 2-3 days, and then at company level the strategy review meeting has on the table all the proposals from departments about what kind of corrective actions to make and what to do about them.